Your great-grandmother's dinner table would horrify a modern health inspector. What seemed perfectly normal in the Roaring Twenties could land you in jail today. Here are 25 meals that are illegal now, but normal to eat in the 1920s. Radithor and radium foods. Wealthy Americans in the 1920s sipped radioactive cocktails, believing radiation would cure everything from arthritis to impotence. Radithor, a popular health drink, contained actual radium dissolved in distilled water. People paid premium prices for radium-infused chocolates, bread, and even suppositories. The Bailey Radium Laboratories marketed their glowing products as miracle cures, with customers drinking bottles daily for months. Society pages featured glamorous women hosting radium parties, where guests consumed radioactive delicacies under dim lights. Famous Pittsburgh industrialist Eben Byers drank over 1,400 bottles of Radithor before his jaw literally fell off from radiation poisoning. His death in 1932 sparked the first major federal food safety regulations. Today, selling radioactive food products would result in immediate federal prosecution. Shark fin soup. Chinese restaurants in the 1920s, America served shark fin soup as their most prestigious dish, with entire sharks harvested just for their fins. The practice was completely unregulated, with fishing boats dumping finless sharks back into the ocean to die. Wealthy diners ordered the soup to display their status, paying enormous sums for bowls of gelatinous shark cartilage. Chinatowns in San Francisco and New York featured restaurants specializing in elaborate shark fin preparations. The soup was believed to boost virility and longevity, making it popular among aging businessmen. Traditional preparation involved soaking dried fins for days before creating the prized broth. Modern environmental laws now ban shark finning in U.S. waters, with hefty fines and prison sentences for violations. Sea turtle meat. Sea turtle steaks graced the finest restaurant menus in 1920s coastal cities, with green turtle soup considered the height of culinary sophistication. Turtle hunters worked the Atlantic and Gulf coasts, capturing massive sea turtles for their meat and shells. The Delmonico restaurant in New York built its reputation partly on elaborate turtle preparations served to wealthy patrons. Turtle meat was praised for its unique flavor, described as a cross between beef and fish. Cooking methods included turtle steaks, turtle stew, and the famous clear turtle soup that took days to prepare properly. Coastal communities built entire economies around turtle harvesting, with specialized boats and processing facilities. Today, all sea turtle species are protected under federal law, with turtle meat consumption carrying serious criminal penalties. Ortolan bunting. French restaurants in the 1920s, America served Ortolan bunting, tiny songbirds eaten whole after being drowned in brandy. The birds were captured during migration, fattened in dark boxes, then prepared using traditional French methods. Diners covered their heads with napkins while eating, supposedly to hide their shame from God or to concentrate the aroma. The practice was considered the ultimate expression of culinary sophistication among wealthy food enthusiasts. Specialty restaurants imported live ortolans from France, keeping them in back rooms until preparation time. Each bird cost the equivalent of $200 in today's money, making ortolan dinners exclusive affairs for the ultra-wealthy. The ritual of eating ortolan was as important as the taste, with elaborate ceremonies surrounding each meal. Modern bird protection laws make capturing or consuming ortolan bunting a federal crime. Fried songbirds. Small songbirds fried whole appeared regularly on American tables in the 1920s, especially in rural areas where hunting regulations barely existed. Children learned to catch robins, sparrows, and finches using simple traps and slingshots. The birds were cleaned, seasoned, and fried like chicken, providing protein during lean times. Italian immigrant communities particularly embraced songbird cuisine, preparing traditional dishes from their homeland. Urban restaurants occasionally featured bird plates, with assorted small birds arranged artistically. Hunters used mist nets and lime sticks to capture dozens of birds at once during migration seasons. Today, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act makes killing or consuming most songbirds a federal offense with substantial penalties. Fugu. Japanese restaurants in the 1920s California served fugu, the deadly pufferfish that kills diners when prepared incorrectly. Unlicensed cooks attempted the complex preparation without proper training, leading to numerous poisoning deaths. The fish contains tetrodotoxin, a poison more deadly than cyanide, concentrated in specific organs that must be removed perfectly. Adventurous diners sought out fugu for the thrill of potentially fatal dining, with some restaurants advertising the danger as a selling point. Many amateur chefs attempted home preparation using questionable recipes from outdated cookbooks. The numbness and tingling sensations were considered part of the authentic fugu experience. Federal food safety regulations now ban fugu preparation by unlicensed chefs, requiring years of training and certification. Raw milk products. Raw milk was the only option for most Americans in the 1920s, since pasteurization wasn't widely adopted until later. Families bought milk directly from local farms, often still warm from the cow. Ice cream, butter, and cheese were all made from unpasteurized milk. Street vendors sold raw milk from carts, ladling it into customers' own containers. Many people believed raw milk was healthier and more nutritious than processed alternatives. Tuberculosis, typhoid, and other diseases spread through contaminated milk, but people didn't understand the connection. Today, selling raw milk for human consumption is illegal in many states. Violations can result in fines, business shutdowns, and criminal prosecution, especially if people become ill. Bear paws and gallbladders. Chinese medicine practitioners in specialty restaurants in 1920s, Chinatown served bear paws and gallbladders as expensive delicacies with supposed medicinal properties. Bear paws were braised for hours until the tough meat became tender, while gallbladders were dried and ground into powder. Hunters specifically targeted bears for these valuable body parts, often wasting the rest of the carcass. The gallbladders were believed to cure liver problems and improve general health, selling for enormous sums. Specialty shops displayed preserved bear parts in their windows, like jewelry stores display diamonds. Traditional preparation methods required specific cooking techniques passed down through generations. Modern wildlife protection laws make possessing bear parts a serious felony, with lengthy prison sentences for trafficking. Lard-based products with trans fats. Most 1920s households cooked exclusively with lard and hydrogenated oils loaded with trans fats, completely unaware of the cardiovascular dangers. Crisco and similar products were marketed as healthier alternatives to butter, though they contained artificial trans fats that we now know cause heart disease. Bakeries used these fats in every product, from bread to pastries, creating unnaturally long shelf lives. Restaurants fried everything in reused lard that had been heated and cooled repeatedly, concentrating harmful compounds. Home cooks stored lard in large containers, using it for months without refrigeration. The creamy texture and extended preservation made these fats seem miraculous to 1920s housewives. Federal regulations now ban trans fats in commercial food production, recognizing them as dangerous additives. Raw almonds, fumigated with cyanide compounds. California almond growers in the 1920s fumigated their crops with hydrogen cyanide gas to kill pests, leaving dangerous residues on the nuts. Consumers ate these almonds raw, unknowingly ingesting small amounts of cyanide compounds with each handful. The fumigation process was considered a breakthrough in agricultural science, extending shelf life and preventing insect damage. Grocery stores sold fumigated almonds loose from open barrels, with no warnings about chemical treatment. Children snacked on these treated nuts daily, while parents packed them in school lunches. The sweet almond taste masked any chemical aftertaste, making detection impossible for average consumers. Modern food safety laws require extensive washing and processing to remove all chemical residues from nuts. Candy cigarettes containing real tobacco. Children in the 1920s bought candy cigarettes that actually contained real tobacco and nicotine, designed to look exactly like adult cigarettes. Candy stores sold these products openly, with colorful packaging that appealed to young customers. The candies were made with tobacco leaf extracts mixed into the sugar base, providing a mild nicotine buzz. Parents often bought these treats for their children, seeing them as harmless imitations of adult behavior. Some brands included paper wrappers that could be lit and smoked like real cigarettes. Toy stores featured elaborate displays of candy tobacco products, marketing them as educational toys. Modern tobacco regulations strictly prohibit any nicotine-containing products marketed to children, with severe penalties for violations. Cocaine-laced beverages. Coca-Cola and dozens of other soft drinks contained actual cocaine until the late 1920s, marketed as energy tonics and health remedies. Consumers regularly drank cocaine-infused beverages at soda fountains, experiencing mild stimulant effects they attributed to the refreshing taste. Pharmacists mixed cocaine into custom drinks for customers seeking energy boosts or appetite suppression. The drug was completely legal and appeared in everything from headache remedies to children's cough syrups. Wine manufacturers added cocaine to their products, creating potent cocktails that were hugely popular at social gatherings. Advertisement campaigns promoted the energizing effects of cocaine-containing drinks as beneficial for work and study. Federal drug laws now classify cocaine as a dangerous controlled substance, making its use in food products a serious federal crime. Absinthe with dangerous additives. Absinthe flowed freely in the 1920s speakeasies, often containing dangerous additives like copper sulfate for color and methanol for extra potency. Bootleggers mixed toxic chemicals into homemade absinthe, creating drinks that caused hallucinations, blindness, and death. The famous green color came from copper compounds that accumulated in drinkers' systems over time. Underground distilleries used industrial alcohol not meant for human consumption, adding herbs and chemicals to mask the poisonous taste. Artists and writers gathered in secret clubs to drink absinthe, believing it enhanced their creative abilities. Some varieties contained antimony, lead, and other heavy metals that caused permanent neurological damage. Modern alcohol regulations ban most traditional absinthe additives, requiring extensive testing for safety approval. Morphine and opium-infused foods. Bakeries and candy shops in the 1920s openly sold morphine-laced pastries and opium-infused chocolates as over-the-counter remedies for pain and anxiety. These products were marketed to housewives dealing with daily stress and physical discomfort from household labor. Chinese restaurants served opium-seasoned dishes alongside traditional fare, catering to customers seeking the drug's effect. Candy manufacturers created elaborate opium confections, advertising them as sophisticated adult treats for special occasions. Tea houses featured opium-infused teas and desserts, providing social gathering places for regular users. The drugs were completely legal and considered beneficial for various medical conditions. Modern controlled substance laws make adding opiates to food products a major federal offense with mandatory prison sentences. Lead-sweetened wines and beverages. Winemakers in the 1920s added lead compounds to sweeten their products, unknowingly poisoning customers with heavy metal contamination. The practice dated back centuries but continued despite growing health concerns about lead poisoning. Lead pipes in distilleries and breweries leached metal into alcoholic beverages, concentrating the toxin through repeated exposure. Some producers deliberately added lead acetate, known as sugar of lead, to improve taste and appearance. Wealthy families stored wine in lead crystal decanters for years, allowing dangerous levels of lead to dissolve into their expensive collections. Children often sampled these sweetened wines during family celebrations, accumulating lead in their developing nervous systems. Federal regulations now ban lead in all food and beverage containers, recognizing it as a dangerous neurotoxin. Mercury-preserved fish. Fish merchants in the 1920s used mercury compounds to preserve their catches during long transportation periods, especially for luxury seafood shipped across the country. The mercury prevented bacterial growth and maintained the fish's fresh appearance for weeks without refrigeration. Canned fish products often contain mercury as a preservative, with no warnings about potential health risks. Sushi restaurants used mercury-treated fish for their raw preparations, concentrating the toxin in popular dishes. Fish markets displayed mercury-preserved seafood as premium products, charging higher prices for the extended freshness. Consumers had no way to detect mercury contamination, as it didn't affect the taste or appearance of the fish. Modern food safety laws strictly regulate mercury levels in all seafood products, with mandatory testing and disposal requirements. Arsenic-containing pesticide residues. Fruits and vegetables in the 1920s carried heavy loads of arsenic-based pesticides that weren't washed off before consumption. Apple orchards used lead arsenate sprays extensively, leaving visible white residues on the fruit that consumers simply wiped off before eating. Farmers believed these chemicals were harmless to humans while effectively killing insects and preventing crop damage. Grocery stores sold unwashed produce directly from farms, with customers expected to clean fruits and vegetables at home. Children ate apples straight from trees that had been recently sprayed with arsenic compounds, accumulating toxic levels over time. Home gardens used arsenic-based rat poisons that contaminated soil and groundwater used for irrigation. Federal pesticide regulations now ban arsenic-containing chemicals in food production, requiring extensive testing for residue levels. Horse meat. Horse meat topped dinner tables across America in the 1920s, especially in working-class neighborhoods where butchers sold it as an affordable protein. European immigrants brought their culinary traditions, turning horse steaks into Sunday suppers. The meat was lean, slightly sweet, and cost half the price of beef. Butcher shops advertised chevaline openly, with no shame or secrecy. Restaurants in major cities like New York and Chicago featured horse meat specials on their regular menus. The practice was so common that cookbooks included recipes for preparing horse roasts and horse sausages. Today, selling horse meat for human consumption is illegal in most U.S. states, with severe penalties for violators. Formaldehyde-preserved dairy products. Dairy farmers in the 1920s added formaldehyde directly to milk to prevent spoilage during transport, especially during hot summer months when refrigeration was unavailable. The chemical kept milk from souring for days longer than natural preservation methods, allowing distant distribution to urban markets. Consumers couldn't taste the formaldehyde in small concentrations, and many believed the extended freshness indicated higher quality milk. Cheesemakers used formaldehyde to control bacteria during aging processes, creating products with unnaturally long shelf lives. Ice cream vendors added the chemical to prevent melting and bacterial growth in their products during street sales. Children drank formaldehyde-treated milk daily at school and home, with parents unaware of the chemical contamination. Modern food safety laws classify formaldehyde as a dangerous carcinogen, strictly prohibiting its use in any food product. Benzene-flavored soft drinks. Soft drink manufacturers in the 1920s used benzene as a flavoring agent in various beverages, particularly in cherry and almond-flavored sodas. The chemical provided an intense, sweet taste that consumers found appealing in small concentrations. Pharmacists mixed benzene-containing syrups at soda fountains, creating custom drinks with the dangerous solvent as a key ingredient. Some companies marketed benzene-flavored drinks as energy tonics, claiming the chemical provided beneficial stimulant effects. Children regularly consumed these beverages at drugstore soda fountains, accumulating benzene in their systems over time. The sweet smell and taste of benzene made it popular among manufacturers seeking to create distinctive flavor profiles. Federal regulations now classify benzene as a known carcinogen, banning its use in all food and beverage products. Chloroform-infused cough remedies. Patent medicine companies in the 1920s sold chloroform-laced cough syrups and cold remedies to families dealing with respiratory ailments. Parents gave these products to children multiple times daily, not realizing they were administering a dangerous anesthetic agent. The chloroform provided immediate relief from coughing by numbing throat tissues, making it seem like an effective treatment. Pharmacists mixed chloroform into custom remedies for customers seeking powerful cough suppressants during flu outbreaks. Some products contained up to 10% chloroform by volume, creating dangerous concentrations in popular over-the-counter medicines. Adults used these remedies as sleep aids, enjoying the sedative effects of regular chloroform consumption. Modern medical regulations classify chloroform as a dangerous controlled substance, prohibiting its use in consumer health products. Radium-painted dinnerware. Wealthy families in the 1920s ate from plates and cups painted with radium-containing glazes that glowed softly in dim light. The radioactive dinnerware was considered the height of sophistication, with entire place settings costing enormous sums. Manufacturers marketed these products as beneficial to health, claiming the radiation improved food quality and provided energy to diners. Children used glowing cups and bowls daily, accumulating radiation exposure with every meal over years of use. Hostesses displayed radium dinnerware at dinner parties, creating dramatic table settings that impressed guests with their otherworldly glow. The paint contained pure radium mixed with phosphors, creating dangerous levels of radiation in direct contact with food. Federal nuclear regulations now ban radium in all consumer products, classifying such items as hazardous radioactive materials. Thallium rat poison contamination. Restaurants and households in the 1920s used thallium-based rat poisons extensively, leading to frequent contamination of food preparation areas and storage spaces. The odorless, tasteless poison easily transferred to food through contaminated surfaces and utensils. Cooks often stored rat poison near food supplies, not understanding how easily the thallium could migrate into edible products. Some unscrupulous individuals deliberately added thallium to food as a murder weapon, taking advantage of its undetectable nature and delayed effects. Bakeries and restaurants experienced accidental poisonings when thallium dust settled on bread, pastries, and other exposed foods. Children playing in areas treated with thallium rat poison often ingested the chemical through contaminated hands and toys. Modern pest control regulations ban thallium-containing products, requiring safer alternatives that don't pose risks to human health. Diethylene glycol wine, adulterants. Wine producers in the 1920s added diethylene glycol to their products to increase sweetness and body, not knowing they were using a deadly antifreeze component. The chemical provided the smooth, sweet taste that consumers expected from quality wines, making it popular among bootleggers and commercial producers. Some wines contain dangerous concentrations of diethylene glycol, leading to kidney failure and death in regular consumers. The practice was widespread among producers seeking to stretch their wine supplies and improve taste profiles cheaply. Wealthy collectors unknowingly stored diethylene glycol-contaminated wines in their cellars for years, concentrating the toxin through aging processes. Import wines from Europe often contain the chemical as an accepted industry practice. Federal food safety laws now ban diethylene glycol in all consumable products, requiring extensive testing of imported wines. Tobacco-infused alcoholic beverages. Bartenders in the 1920s, speakeasies mixed tobacco directly into cocktails and punches, creating nicotine-laced drinks that provided dual stimulation from alcohol and tobacco. These beverages were particularly popular among sophisticated drinkers seeking novel experiences during Prohibition-era parties. Some establishments soaked tobacco leaves in whiskey for weeks, creating concentrated nicotine extracts used in specialty cocktails. The practice was considered fashionable among wealthy socialites who wanted to demonstrate their worldliness and sophisticated tastes. Tobacco companies marketed special blends designed specifically for infusion into alcoholic beverages, complete with preparation instructions. Some cocktails contained enough nicotine to cause toxicity symptoms in occasional drinkers not accustomed to tobacco consumption. Modern tobacco and alcohol regulations prohibit mixing these substances, recognizing the increased health risks of combined consumption. Strychnine-containing tonics. Health tonic manufacturers in the 1920s included strychnine in their products as a stimulant, marketing the rat poison as beneficial for energy and vitality. These liquid tonics were sold openly in pharmacies and general stores, with consumers taking daily doses of the deadly alkaloid. The strychnine provided noticeable stimulant effects that customers interpreted as proof of the tonic's effectiveness. Athletes used strychnine-containing products as early performance enhancers, not understanding the serious cardiovascular risks involved. Parents gave these tonics to children as general health supplements, believing small doses of strychnine were beneficial for growing bodies. Some products contained dangerous concentrations that caused convulsions and death in regular users over time. Federal drug regulations now classify strychnine as a dangerous poison, banning its use in all consumer health products. Redfish blackened in cast iron. In the 1970s, Louisiana chef Paul Prudhomme introduced his famous blackened redfish recipe, creating a nationwide sensation. Restaurants across America raced to add this spicy, charred fish dish to their menus, and home cooks eagerly attempted to recreate the magic in their own kitchens. The popularity of blackened redfish had devastating consequences. By the mid-1980s, redfish red drum populations in the Gulf of Mexico had plummeted to dangerous levels due to overfishing. In 1987, commercial harvesting of redfish was banned in federal waters, and many states implemented strict regulations. Today, while recreational fishing of redfish is allowed in some areas with strict catch limits, the commercial sale of wild-caught Gulf redfish remains largely illegal. That delicious blackened redfish that was the star of so many 1970s dinner parties would now come with hefty fines if caught and sold commercially. Passenger pigeon pie. Just kidding on this one. Passenger pigeons were already extinct by the 1970s, having disappeared in 1914 due to massive overhunting. But this extinction case helps illustrate how our relationship with food has changed. In the 19th century, passenger pigeon was a common food, often baked into pies. By the 1970s, this once abundant bird was long gone, a cautionary tale about unsustainable food practices. This extinction helped build momentum for the conservation movements that would eventually lead to the protections many species now enjoy. Today, harvesting any migratory bird without proper permits violates the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, with penalties including fines and imprisonment. The casual hunting of wild birds that was once common in American history is now strictly regulated. Whale meat steaks. Though not common in most American households, whale meat was still legally available in some markets in the early 1970s, particularly in areas with whaling traditions or significant immigrant populations from whaling nations. This red beef-like meat was typically prepared as steaks or roasts. The Marine Mammal Protection Act of 1972 changed everything, prohibiting the hunting, killing, capture, or harassment of marine mammals in U.S. waters. This was followed by the worldwide commercial whaling moratorium implemented by the International Whaling Commission in 1986. Today, possessing or consuming whale meat in the United States is illegal except for limited subsistence hunting by Alaska natives. What was once an exotic but legal dinner option is now a serious wildlife crime carrying heavy penalties. Home-butchered venison. In rural America of the 1970s, hunting season meant filling the freezer. Many families supplemented their diets with venison, and the regulations around hunting, butchering, and sharing game meat were much more relaxed. Hunters would often process their own deer at home and share the bounty with neighbors and extended family without much paperwork or oversight. Today, while hunting remains popular, the regulations have tightened significantly. Most states require specific permits not just for hunting, but also for processing game. There are strict rules about how venison can be shared, with many states prohibiting the giving of wild game meat to anyone outside the hunter's immediate family without proper documentation. Commercial sale of wild harvested venison is illegal nationwide. The casual neighborhood deer processing and meat sharing that was common in the 1970s would now potentially violate multiple wildlife and food safety laws. Unpasteurized dairy products. In the 1970s, many rural families still consumed raw, unpasteurized milk, cheese, and other dairy products, either from their own cows or from local farmers. Raw milk was widely available and considered perfectly normal, especially outside major urban areas. Today, the sale of unpasteurized milk for human consumption is illegal in many states, and interstate sale is prohibited by federal law. The FDA has determined that raw milk can harbor dangerous bacteria like Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli. While some states do permit limited sales of raw milk, the regulations are strict and violations can lead to significant penalties. The casual consumption of unpasteurized dairy that was commonplace in the 1970s would now potentially violate numerous food safety regulations. Home-canned foods without modern safety protocols. The 1970s saw a resurgence of home canning as part of the Back to the Land movement, but the safety standards were far less developed. Many families followed outdated methods passed down through generations rather than scientifically tested protocols. Open kettle canning, where hot food is poured into jars without additional processing, was still common for many foods. Today, selling home-canned foods without following approved USDA guidelines and without proper licensing, inspection, and testing would violate food safety laws in most jurisdictions. Commercial sale of home-canned low-acid foods like vegetables, meats, and soups is particularly restricted due to the risk of botulism. The casual home canning operations that supplied many 1970s pantries would now potentially violate numerous health codes if those products were sold to the public. Homemade moonshine. During the 1970s, particularly in rural areas with strong traditions of home distilling, moonshine, illegally produced high-proof spirits, remained fairly common. While technically illegal even then, enforcement was spotty, and many people still produce spirits at home for personal consumption or limited local distribution. Today, federal and state laws against unlicensed alcohol production are enforced much more stringently. Producing spirits without proper licensing and tax payments is a federal offense that can result in felony charges, with penalties including up to 5 years in prison and hefty fines. While laws allowing for home beer and wine production have loosened, the prohibition against home distilling remains strict. That mason jar of Grandpa's special recipe from the 1970s could now lead to serious legal consequences. Imported haggis. Traditional Scottish haggis, a savory pudding containing sheep's heart, liver, and lungs, minced with onion, oatmeal, sweet, and spices, all encased in the animal's stomach, was still legally imported into the United States in the 1970s. Scottish-American families could enjoy authentic haggis for Burns Night celebrations and other special occasions. In 1971, the USDA banned the use of livestock lungs in food products, and in 1989, imported haggis containing sheep lungs was prohibited due to concerns about scrapie, a sheep disease. Today, authentic Scottish haggis cannot legally be imported into the United States. While American-made versions, without lungs, are available, traditionalists insist it's not the same. The authentic imported haggis that graced Scottish-American tables in the 1970s would now be seized by customs officials. Homemade cough syrup with codeine. In some households during the 1970s, particularly in rural areas or in families with European traditions, homemade cough remedies containing small amounts of codeine or other controlled substances were still occasionally prepared. While prescription requirements for codeine existed, enforcement was less stringent, and some families maintained traditional medicinal recipes passed down through generations. Today, producing any medication containing controlled substances without proper pharmaceutical licensing would violate numerous federal and state laws with serious criminal penalties. The DEA and FDA strictly regulate even small amounts of codeine and similar substances. The homemade medicinal preparations that some grandmothers stirred up in the 1970s could now result in drug manufacturing charges. Roadkill stew. In rural America during the 1970s, it wasn't uncommon for people to salvage meat from animals killed by vehicles on roadways. This waste not, want not approach was particularly common during economic hard times, and roadkill deer, rabbit, and other animals sometimes ended up in family stews and roasts. Today, salvaging roadkill is strictly regulated in most states. While some states have enacted roadkill salvage laws permitting the practice under specific conditions, usually requiring permits and reporting, many still prohibit it entirely. In states without explicit permissions, taking roadkill without proper authorization could violate wildlife laws. The casual roadside harvesting that some rural families practiced in the 1970s would now be illegal in many jurisdictions without proper permit. Raw oyster platters. In the 1970s, oyster lovers consumed these briny delicacies year-round, without much concern for seasonal safety. The old adage about only eating oysters in months with an R, September through April, was often ignored as refrigeration and transportation improved. Today, strict regulations govern raw oyster sales, particularly those harvested from Gulf Coast waters during warm months, roughly May through October, due to the risk of Vibrio vulnificus bacteria, which thrives in warmer waters. Some states prohibit the sale of raw Gulf oysters during summer months, unless they've undergone special processing to eliminate bacteria. The casual summer oyster bars of the 1970s would now face significant regulatory hurdles and potential legal consequences for selling untreated raw oysters during prohibited months. Chitlins prepared without health department oversight. Chitlins, or chitterlings, cleaned and cooked pig intestines, have long been a traditional dish in Southern and African American cuisine. In the 1970s, chitlin suppers were common community events, often prepared in home kitchens or community centers without specific health department oversight. Today, commercial preparation of chitlins is subject to strict food safety regulations due to the risk of bacterial contamination, particularly Yersinia enterocolitica. Restaurants and food service operations serving chitlins must follow specific cleaning, preparation, and cooking protocols. While home preparation for family consumption remains legal, the community chitlin suppers of the 1970s would now require proper food service permits, inspected facilities, and adherence to specific safety protocols to be legal in most jurisdictions. Home-brewed kombucha with high alcohol content. In the 1970s, as interest in natural foods and global cuisines grew, some health food enthusiasts began brewing kombucha at home. Without modern testing equipment, these home brewers often unknowingly created kombucha with significant alcohol content through extended fermentation. Today, kombucha containing more than 0.5% alcohol by volume is regulated as an alcoholic beverage, requiring proper licensing, taxation, and age restrictions for sale. Commercial kombucha producers must regularly test their products and either keep alcohol levels below this threshold or comply with alcohol beverage regulations. The potent home-brewed kombucha that some health food enthusiasts shared in the 1970s would now potentially violate alcohol production and distribution laws if sold or distributed without proper licensing.